Now, we've a lot coming up in the second part of the show, so we're going to get straight into it. I'm going to go straight to Phil Fanning. Good morning, Phil.
Morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us, Phil. How are you keeping?
Okay. Not too bad at all, getting over this lockdown and everything else.
Yes. The GAA looking at getting back in stages, obviously. It's just before we go on to the greatest sporting hero, I was around different clubs down the west there the last few weeks, and obviously clubs around the city as well. People are really wanting to get back, aren't they?
You are really, and the biggest problem I found in the last 10, 12 weeks, was the fact that the weather being so good, that was really hard on kids who couldn't get to the fields. At a time when they were off school, all right, but in the lockdown they weren't able to get to the fields and open up things, So that was the biggest loss, I think, overall. Apart from the fact that everyone missed the games and all that, but the weather was so good. I'm hoping now that when the thing resumes, we won't have pouring rain and everything as matches, because it would have been wonderful that have Munster Championship games in the last 4 to 5 weeks, which we missed out on badly, and particularly in Welsh Park, we would have had Tipperary and Cork there,
I know, and the weather was just so gorgeous.
Have to get back to it in some way anyway in the coming weeks, coming months.
We will, yeah. And in the meantime, we're going to be looking at this Waterford greatest sporting hero in conjunction of Flahavans. And we had our panel of Ray Scott, Matt Keane, Michelle Ryan, Kieran O'Connor. Voting is underway. You can text the word hero and the name of the person that you want to vote. There's top 25, and we've done quite a few at the minute. We're now on John Keane and hurling. People know you, Phil, from many, many years writing with the News Star and as a columnist and as a reporter. And you had personal experience, I suppose, because your dad, Pádraig, was a great friend of John Keane, was he?
Yeah, he was. And in this day, these days now, there's not many people around, I suppose, who would remember John Keane in his prime as a player. But growing up in our house, with my father being so close to John Keane, and as playing with him and a very close friend, that John Keane in our house was he was without question probably the greatest Waterford hurler of his time. There's no doubt about it. And there's so many stories about him that you could tell from the time when he, as a youngster, when he broke into the Waterford team as a teenager in the 30s, right up to the time that he retired in 1952, I think it was, having won his All-Ireland in 48. But there's no question about it. He was a great player, and the greatest way to judge any man, I suppose, as a player, a hurler especially, is the esteem in which he was held by his peers at the time. Yes. And everything, all these things, Damien, are subjective, all right, when it comes to naming players, great players, and people go on their memories and recent Waterford. Those of us now around now would be thinking of the Waterford teams since the start of since 2000 or so, maybe, where we have some great players and won 4 Munster titles and so on, into 2 All-Irelands. And then there was, of course, the great Waterford team of the 59 to 63 era, which was probably most people at that time would say it was the greatest Waterford team of all time. But when you think back over the years prior to that, when John Keane was in his prime, says the esteem in which he was held by the great players of that day, who regarded him as an equal, if not even a superior player to some of them. The likes of Mick Mackey and Christy Ring would have told you, and Jack Lynch and those people would have told you that John Keane was probably the greatest hurler, some might have said, that they encountered in opposition throughout the 40s and 30s and 40s particularly,
Yeah, and he was born in 1917, he died in 1975, and just to remind people, he came on the inter-county scene at the age of 15 when he first linked up with the minor team, and then he went on to become part of the great teams, and he won 7 Railway Cup medals when the Railway Cup was a massive competition, and 8 championship medals with Mount Sion, and he retired in 1951. It's phenomenal, as you say, the esteem that he was held in by his peers, and to get on the team of the century, that is some achievement.
He was on the team of the century, on the team of the millennium at centre half back, and there was never any doubt apparently by the people selecting those teams who we would have had people selecting them who would have remembered John Keane playing hurling, and then they would have done a lot of research too into the archives of the Times to see just to confirm the opinions they had of him. And there was never any doubt but that he was an automatic as centre back on those teams. And the biggest thing, if I don't know, have you seen David Smith's book, The Unconquerable Keane?
Yes, I have actually. Yeah.
David's biography. It's a great read, really, and it's a kind of indeed it's half a history of Waterford hurling throughout the 30s and 40s, and the great games that were played then. And it shows you how close Waterford came at times to making a breakthrough earlier than 1948. There was a lot of bad luck in one thing and another. But throughout all that period, John Keane stood out as a leader in every sense on the field for Waterford. And there's in a time when there were great Waterford players, like Christy Mylan and Jim Weir, of course. Without John Keane, Waterford would not have won the All-Ireland in 1948, and certainly without Jim Weir on goal. Jim's. You talk about it, by the way, just to digress. You talk about how long John was on the team from 1935. Jim Weir started in the 20s on goal for Waterford, and Jim Weir finished up in 1948 or 49. And Jim Weir was brilliant on goal at that time in 1948 when he captained the team. And then you have other great players like Christy Myle and Andy Fleming. They were all tremendous players for Waterford all through that period, and it was a great reward for them that they won the All-Ireland in 1948. But everyone will concede that the leadership of John Keane, he scored 3-2 in the All-Ireland final in 1948 at centre forward, and the manner in which the man could play every position nearly on the field made him stand out as one of the greatest players of his day, and without question, one of the greatest players of any era.
Of any era,
in hurling, and there's no question about it. When you're talking about the hurling heroes and so on, or you're talking about, say, the impression that people made in their days, sporting heroes on the national scene. John Keane standing on the national scene in Ireland throughout the 30s and 40s was a superstar.
Unparalleled, yeah.
Parallel, that's the only way you could describe it at the
time.
Phil,
you've spoken really, really well about him this morning. Well done, and thank you very much. And by the way, I'm really enjoying your articles in the papers as ever, and this week, just looking at them this morning.
I'm sure we're all stuck in with nostalgia.
I know, but it's really good, and you're summarising them really well, and no, fair play to you. So listen, Phil, to you and the family, take care, and thank you very much for that lovely words about John, okay?
Got this, thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye. Phil Fanning there on the wonderful John Keane, a renowned hurler. He was on the team of the century and team of the millennium. And this is all part of our Waterford Greatest Sporting Heroes Top 25. Thank you very much to Flavins, the winning way to start your day. You can vote online, WLRFM.com. You can text 083 3333 975 with the word hero and the name of your nominee. And we are doing a hero every day. Today we are on number 9, and that's John Keane for hurling. So you can get the full list on WLRFM.com and get your texts and comments coming in, please. Next we are going to be talking to some business people who are very much involved in baking bread and getting through this lockdown. We're also going to take more of your texts. An old age pensioner, I can't shop in Homebase or Halfords. Their cards only, says this texter. Another one, I think it's disgraceful that some shops are taking people's temperatures and possibly refusing who don't have cards to pay with. They should be delighted that people are going to support them in these hard times. They've done enough complaining when the shops are closed. Regarding hairdressers, I think we're moving much too fast. Hairdressers closed for 3 months. Another 3 weeks won't make much of a difference and could make things a lot worse in the long run. I am a hairdresser. I've done everything by the guidelines, but some of my clients are older and don't have cards, only cash. Things are going to be so different for us all without making them feel more uncomfortable. And another hairdresser says, yes, it is time to get back in business. Now, you get in trouble if you keep laughing on air. Now the red light is on. How's it going, Grania?
All good, thanks very much.
How's it going, Darren?
Yeah, all good, thanks very much.
Great. Beatha Bakery. Where does the name Beatha Bakery concept?
Well, Beatha it was actually my dad came up with the name. We had been back and forth trying to come up with names for our bakery. We went from Bootleg Bakery to the House Bakery because it's at home, and then we really felt like, obviously my name is Grania, and my dad is a fluent Irish speaker, and the kids have Irish names, so kind of we wanted to go down that route. Just Beatha came up. We were kind of going through the different meanings of the words that associated with bread and baking and Beatha life. So it was an easy
really
fit.
Nice, yeah. So it's Grania and Darren Collins. Tell us about the operation, Darren.
Well, I suppose we've got two small little converted units at the back of the house. One is a prep unit and one is an oven unit where we bake the bread. And that's it. So I kind of prep it in one and then bake it in another and have a little hatch that kind of joins the two units together.
And where's the house?
On the Cork Road. Basically just on the street in the Cork Road.
And I know you've all the regulations and all the guidelines and everything that, so it's all fully approved.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, we were only chatting about it yesterday, saying like when we had our first EHO visit from the Environmental Health, like she was presented with a coal bunker and a garden shed, and we swear she went away going, "You must be mad! Like you're never going to do this." And then she came back. About 2 months later? My brother, who was brilliant, he basically did most of the work. He fitted it all out. Frank. God, he'll kill me. But he came along, and it's PVC clad, electricity, running water, everything. And she couldn't, we knew she was, we were suitably impressed. Yeah, she was. She signed us off. So, yeah.
Fully functional kitchen.
Yeah,
and baking unit.
So tell me what you do on a weekly basis. Like you're not open every day. Tell me how you run the operation.
No, I suppose it's just controlled. So because I suppose with the type of bread that it is, it's a 3-day process. So you kind of always have to be ahead of yourself. And because we do have such a small unit, it has to be very organised. So each particular day is allocated a certain job to do, and that's the only way I suppose we can kind of physically get the work done and to get the product to the way we want it to be.
And tell us about the type of bread that you do.
Well, it's basically sourdough bread, and we also then we maybe have variations of that. And I suppose it's the stuff that we both like eating, so I would never kind of pigeonhole ourselves into like one particular thing. It's what I like eating, basically, and what we both like eating, and that kind of what the products then go dictate along that way, and I suppose what we can get in seasonal and stuff, whereas elderflower is everywhere, so we were making a lot of elderflower stuff the last couple of weeks and just things like that.
Elderflower.
Oh, elderflower. We were down picking it down yesterday. We have a couple of secret spots. We don't, and actually,
go on, tell us where the secret
no,
spots.
we won't.
We won't tell anybody.
But even like with the restrictions recently, we missed out on picking woodruff and things like that are outside of our zone that we could do. So we picked as much elderflower as we could in a responsible way in the last few days since we were allowed to go back out and do it. So,
how long are you operating?
We're going since last July-ish. The plan is making about 18 months. It took a good few months to get ourselves set up, organised, finding an oven, which was that took months to find the perfect oven, because we need a specific type of bread oven. And actually, it's really the way kind of life goes round. We ended up buying our oven from a retired baker down in Clare, and he found himself in a position a number of years ago where he needed to change everything, and he found a passion for baking, and he made a career out of it, and supported himself and his wife for a number of years. And then he's just kind of handed the baton to us. So it's a really lovely kind of a full circle story.
How do you get on? Do you ever fight?
Well, of course we do.
Oh yeah, yeah. And well, but
well, we're 20.
Everybody
But we're I'm going to be 40 tomorrow.
Happy birthday!
Thanks. But we've been going we're going out since I was 16, so we have a bit of experience in bickering and getting over it.
How did you meet?
Tower Hotel.
Tower Hotel.
I used to carry Grania's tray.
Yeah. Oh,
the Tower Hotel, just some functions,
just
back
working
when,
together. And
that was just it, and then,
fell in love at first sight, was it?
So he says.
Yeah. Remember the first words, no?
Will you carry my tray?
And tell us this idea of planning, and it's so important what you're doing, because you only, as you say, have a certain size. So it's not a walk-in service at present, so people have to order, is that
No, it's all order online.
Yeah.
we previously, we were only getting going really kind of just after Christmas. We'd started to build getting a little bit of traction with our wholesale end, and then obviously after Christmas is very quiet in restaurants, and then sure COVID happened, and that was kind of the end of that. So we really needed to think on our feet. We had a small, we go to the market every Saturday, or we did, and like that's a very small fraction of the business.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit again, we needed to change up. So we had a fairly decent social media presence. So we decided to kind of work with that, capitalise on it, and it's worked out for us, thankfully. You know,
adapt. You know.
Yeah.
So how many loaves of bread, how many items would you be selling a week?
Probably averaging, I say, about 150 over the 3 days. Yeah,
and about
give or take.
And about 150 hand laminated pastries.
And then pastries then as well. And then I suppose kind of different variations of bread then as well, being in rich breads or, as I was saying kind of earlier, I suppose whatever kind of takes our fancy, to a certain degree, because I suppose we will be very interested and have been very interested when I have been a chef, in the craft in my career. And so I suppose it just kind of follows suit into what we're doing now.
Do you enjoy it?
Love it.
Love it, yeah.
Love it. I don't think we could ever. Darren says he could never go back and work for anyone else, just me, which is it's not really true. We work together, but we
work very well together.
Yeah, wouldn't work out with anyone else.
Yeah. And 3 days a week. So you're Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Thursday?
It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the collections, but we work Monday to.
Of course,
Monday morning we start. The menu goes up, and then it's all the ordering. And Darren has started the process of getting the bread and the pastries made on Monday.
Monday. And word of mouth has obviously kept you going as well as the product being so good.
Yeah.
That's the
word of mouth, Instagram and Twitter. Like Instagram for our business we found is great because it's very visual. Like you post up, a gorgeous loaf of bread and it creates traction. So that's kind of, and it's building a story all week to get your product out there.
And can you make breads if somebody has particularly dietary requirements? Will they get in touch with you and say, is there any chance in a few weeks you might do this type of bread? Or do you come up with different sort of menus yourselves?
Yeah, as I was saying, we'd come up with different menus, I suppose, in relation to kind of different dietary requirements because it's such a small unit. We wouldn't fully be able to guarantee it's just too small to kind of have.
Yeah.
If someone is a gluten intolerance or something like that, it just wouldn't work, for the operation that we have.
Yeah.
So I suppose we just adapt to, as I was saying, to our taste. But like everything would be fully percentage natural. If there's something that, say, I would like to introduce onto the menu, we will do it, and we will do it to the best way that we possibly can do it.
How can you see the business growing? Are you happy just at the minute, or are you just going to say, okay, let's see how it goes?
We were that's not. We're actually on holidays this week.
We needed a break.
We were due to take a break way back in April, and then we just had to go with this when it kicked off with the drive-through. So we don't really know where we're going. We don't want to grow too big, but see, I suppose the whole point of us starting the business, or the beginning of it, was we've got 2 small kids. They're actually going to be 9 in a few weeks, and
their names?
Blonde and Oisín. But Oisín said to Darren a couple of years ago, I miss you, I don't really get to see you. And that's, like a stab to the heart, and you have to kind of rethink then what you're going to do. So for us, it was building a business at home, working from home, family time while they're young. So
that's fabulous.
Yeah,
that you've managed to do that. That's great.
And I suppose from being like a chef, it just takes your life, in a good way as well, though, because I suppose you put on the same level of pressure that you want to put on yourself, So yeah, it kind of cooking does just take you away from, I suppose, your family home. So we, I suppose, wanted to maintain and wanted to have some form of a life while being with them as well. So I suppose
it is. It's to find the balance.
Find the balance,
and they love it. Oh my God! They're so proud of it. They tell everyone. Before school finished up, they're constantly telling their teachers and asking, when can we bring something into school? All these sort of questions. But they're so proud, and the 2 of them, they're not afraid to get stuck in. If they want us to be finished up kind of early on a Friday, Oisín is in there scrubbing a basket, and but they just love it.
That's great. It's a lovely story. It's really nice. It's lovely to meet you.
Thanks very much.
Continued success. Enjoy your week off.
Oh yeah,
we will.
Make the most of it.
So if anybody wants to order Beatha Bakery, and that's Beatha, Beatha Bakery.
Mr.Mrs. Beatha Bakery on Instagram, and I'm Mrs. Beatha Bakery on Twitter.
And I missed our Beatha Bakery on Twitter.
They'll find you. And obviously no orders this week.
No orders this week. Back to normal function next week, hopefully.
But if people even want to text you or message you and then...
certainly,
yeah. Because it'll be a difficult choice at some stage, hopefully, that you'll have to say, OK, where do we go next in terms of the business? But if that comes, that'll be great.
I mean, the drive-through is amazing now because there's people off and it suits them to come midday. So we're just going to go with it. I mean, who knows what will happen at the end of June. We may have to adapt our times and we're just going to work with it. Like, we're learning every day. It's, it's a new business, so...
It's a wonderful, positive story, and that's why we wanted to have you on, because it combines that idea of getting the balance with the family right and also adapting a business regarding the COVID times. And you've done really well, and the product is phenomenal.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Julie, for recommending it.
Yeah.
Listen, the very best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and to Grania and Darren. And it's Beatha Bakery, and continued success.
Brilliant.
Cheers, Damien. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Chat to you later. Thanks.
Now, wasn't that a lovely, lovely story? Well done to Grania and to Darren, and continued success setting up a little bakery at the back of their house on the Cork Road and going from strength to strength. Now, number of texts coming in, 083 3333 975. I think hairdressers should be allowed to open. After all, you can always choose not to go, but don't ruin it for others or those that trust their hairdressers will have taken appropriate measures. Whereas Sylvia, a hairdresser, said, hair is not a necessity. You cannot apply social distancing while doing someone's hair. Another texter in, my mum is over 80 and loves her garden. Decided to take the plunge and nervously went to the shop to buy some items. She was delighted with herself, only to find out that she had to get to the till and pay for her items only within a card. My mother was totally embarrassed and had to leave the items behind. We're going to try and talk to Dermot Jewell, like I said, about that this morning. Good morning. I miss my hairdresser very, very badly, but I also want to get back to work and I want to follow the guidelines of the roadmap. If we push this and if it happens, we could have a spike. And if we have a spike, we could be doomed come the winter and there'll be no going back. We've waited this long. We can wait another 3 weeks. As health and advice guidelines, it will be fine. It's okay for hairdressers who are in full health, but plenty of us, possibly with asthma and other lung conditions, who would struggle wearing masks. Interesting comments there, and people divided on that. So regarding the health issues, looking after mental health is something that we are very important about here at WLR and promoting positive mental health awareness. So we're involved with the Suicide Awareness Cycle in aid of Suicide or Survive. It takes place each year in Lemmy Brine. This year's cycle was due to take place on Easter Sunday, but it was postponed. So there's a cycle taking place now between June the 8th and June 21st. We're asking people to cycle 20 kilometres and donate via WLRFM.com. And the SOS charity, their fundraising has gone down 75% because of the issues. So as part of this, Mary O'Neill has spoken to a number of people recently who've lost loved ones to suicide. In the interview you're going to hear now, she talks with Kirsten Mate Marr, and she has had a loved one who lost a loved one to suicide. So this is about raising awareness for mental health, and difficult enough item to talk about and to think about, but very, very important. And we will give out the number for the Samaritans after this. So this is Mary talking with Kirsten Mate Marr.
Kirsten, how are you?
Hello, Mary. How are you getting on?
Really good, and thank you so much for joining me. I know this is a tough subject matter, and you know, I just want you to tell me whatever you're comfortable with, really. But you did lose a friend 2 years ago to suicide. Maybe just tell me a little bit about that person and what that person meant to you.
Yeah, so I lost my pal there 2 years ago now, just over the 8th of June, 2 years ago, 2018. And he's just someone I grew up with. We actually horse rode together, so he's part of my life for a long time. And I suppose I always saw him as someone who was just so outgoing, easygoing, just good crack, and it came as a huge shock to me. And even 2 years later, it doesn't feel like it's real. But yeah. That was it. It was actually 2 or 3 months before the festival, so everything after that kind of went into a little bit of a whirlwind, I suppose, with the stress and the shock of it.
So, Kirsten, when you say the festival, you mean the Rose of Tralee Festival. So I suppose for you, you were about to embark on something huge, and this grief, I'm sure, just swept over you.
the shock of it really, it did impact the year as well, obviously, with a lot of travelling and not being home and kind of, I'm still in shock over it. Even when I speak about it now, it is really upsetting.
Absolutely. Did your friend discuss having mental health issues? Did any of you know? Because people can hide it from their loved ones sometimes.
I don't know if he didn't discuss it with me anyway. But he was always such good fun, and I suppose he's just one of those people that I suppose you wouldn't. Maybe people just didn't ask. And I suppose that's the thing that I've realised now, is that it can happen to absolutely anybody, and we just need to be sure to look after all of our friends, and don't think, oh God, no, she's fine or he's fine because he's well able for things and well able for this, that, the other. We just need to be able to just ask everyone if they're okay, because you don't know where it's going to strike, and that's I suppose the scariest part of it. But the good part is that we know that we actually have supports here. They are providing help, and I suppose for someone like me who's lost a friend, and I'm friends with his siblings, and I've noticed on the Suicide or Survive website you can actually do a course, a supporters course, and it provides you with, I suppose, the tools and the information that you might need to be a good friend, or someone who could be a really good support to someone who's lost a family member, because I suppose you don't really know what it's like until it's happened to you. So it's hard to know how to, be a good support to someone. And Suicide or Survive are providing that kind of support as well, which I think is really crucial. And I don't think I've heard of any other course similar around. So I think if we can, push things like that and learn how to support each other better, maybe this wouldn't happen as often, and we can get a hold of it.
And, I've spoken to people from different walks of life, from completely different age groups and in completely different circumstances. I spoke to an older gentleman as part of all this, and he made such a point that everyone says, oh, young people have it so easy nowadays and they have a great life and everything. But there are certain pressures that are attached to being young nowadays. I think life can be really hectic, and I'm sure you have experienced that as well, Kirsten, and sometimes all that can be quite hard to cope with as well.
Oh, 100%. And, even now, I suppose we really need to look after each other, because I know like the Leaving Cert and exams and stuff don't, like, to me, I'm like, they're the last thing that matter right now. Our health and our safety is the most important thing. But there is people out there, they might feel as if, they're a little bit down because they feel like all their options are taken from them, and that they're, that maybe their futures are at stake here. And I suppose they need to know that there is somewhere that you can go for a chat, and to find the support that you need to get through this time, especially now in quarantine. Everything is heightened, even at home. Like, things are, everyone's so close to each other. It's hard, and maybe people who had someone that they might have relied heavily on, they're not in quarantine together, and that can be really hard on people as well. So we are lucky that we have the supports here, and I just love to encourage people to use them. And to use them as much as possible, because there's always an ear there. There's always somebody who wants to help and listen.
Absolutely. And we are organising, well, SOS is organising the cycle, which is basically the 20k from your own home from the 8th of June in collaboration with us here in WLR. What would you say to people in terms of taking part in that? Because it's all about, I suppose, raising awareness of mental health issues, but it's encouraging people to exercise and to do something communal even when we have to stay apart.
Exactly. And I just think something like this is just amazing, because you're getting out into the fresh air, you're getting out of the house, and you can go out as maybe a family unit, or maybe at the time I think we're allowed to meet up with not with friends at a social distance. And it's a nice way of getting out there and clearing your head as well. So it's good to encourage something like that. And it is a sense of community as well. With the cycle, I just think it's a brilliant idea. And you'd be surprised 20k sounds like loads, but if I could do 40k this time last year, I did the whole entire greenway from Waterford to Dungarvan. I think it's about 40k.
You're right, yeah. It's actually 46, I think, the whole thing. But yeah, well done. You're well able. And I suppose it's nice for you, Kirsten, as well, and for people who have lost a loved one to suicide, to remember them by taking part in events like this as well, I think.
Exactly, and I've seen people at different events maybe wearing T-shirts with the name of the person that they've lost on them, and doing up a bike or a car or something, in honour of them. And I think that's lovely as well, because I know, although it's upsetting to talk about, I do like to, remember him all the time and chat about him.
Okay, Kirsten. Well, listen, I really, really appreciate you talking to me and for sharing the memories of your friend, but also how important it is to get help as well. I think your message was really strong, and thank you so much for talking to me. It's massively appreciated.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for having me.
And that was Kirsten Matemar. I think I mispronounced her name before the start of the piece, and a lovely piece there. And the number for the Samaritans in Waterford, 051 872 114. It's a 24-hour number, 872 114. Anybody affected by that piece, please, you have to talk. It is good to talk. And Mary O'Neill has been talking and will be talking to Niall on the Fringe tonight after the news at 6. So now we're going to play a lovely piece of music recorded virtually by WIT's Youth Choir. They're made up of 50 singers from the secondary schools across the southeast. Everyone recorded their pieces on their phones and was put together by choir director Niall Crowley. The song is called North by the band Sleeping at Last and is dedicated to the memory of choir member Carl Kirby, who died last June. So Mary will be talking to Niall tonight on the Fringe programme just after the news at 6. This is really wonderful.
We will call his place our home, the dirt in which our roots may grow. Though the storms will push and blow, we will call his place our home. We'll tell our stories on these walls.
Now, I'm going to be talking to Dermot Jewell in a second. Firstly, a text in. It's a disgrace the amount of hairdressers and beauticians who are working from home are calling to people's houses. It's so unfair for the people who are adhering to the rules. Some people are making a fortune and still getting the COVID payment. What do you think? Agnes says, it's great to have natural curls. I gave all my life trying to straighten my hair. Always stay safe and natural. I don't near the hairdressers, says Martin. I've discovered my wife is a great barber. Dermot Jewell, how's your hair?
It's not too bad. It's getting long all right, though.
Have you got anybody to cut it as you went along?
No, different a bit. Nobody will take the risk.
Policy advisor for the Consumer Association of Ireland. Thank you very much for joining us at short notice. It's been an issue of contention here on the programme this morning, but many other mornings, and particularly since the shops have started reopening. Let me ask you a very straight question. Is it illegal to refuse cash?
It's not illegal to refuse cash. But the situation in the background of it is that you have to be advised in advance that the retailer or the business or whoever you're dealing with won't accept cash and give you a reason for that. I know that there's a unique situation ongoing at the minute, but the bottom line of it is you would have considered that. I know why they're suggesting they only want cards, but the reality is it's not really the way to open and try to engage with consumers who, for many of them, particularly those who are not engaging with banks, where banks are closed quite significantly, that they would be expecting that the normal way that they would pay would be in cash.
Yeah, we'll talk about that sort of, I suppose, perception of how that helps or discourages retail in a minute. But on a purely legal thing, even though cash is legal tender, and it says it on it, it's legal tender, it is legal for a retailer as long as they tell people beforehand, before they enter the shop. Is that it?
Yes, that's it. And we have examples, for example, where they may say, look, we won't accept coin, but what we will do is we will accept notes, and there may be a problem in that we won't be in a position to give you your change. So what we will do is we'll give you, if you like, a note that, we will give you your change when this matter resolves itself. And that may seem like an awful lot of trouble, but it shouldn't be a problem. They should be glad that people are coming to the door and they're happy to be purchasing in an environment that's potentially safe. It's part of the planning process.
It is, yeah. And there were a lot of issues at the start of the pandemic about can the actual virus be transferred on notes or on coins.
Yes.
And there was a bit of conflicting evidence regarding that or how long it might stay on it. But a lot of people obviously use cards, and a lot of people have been using cards in the last 3 months in particular. But now, and we have a lot of people texting the show, Dermot, many other shows as well, particularly those over 70, they may not have cards. A woman goes up in a supermarket, she gets all her stuff. She wasn't told beforehand that she had to get a card. She could only use a card. Now, if she wasn't told beforehand, is she entitled? Now, she was embarrassed. She had to go away. Awful red embarrassment. But is she entitled to say to the retailer, I'm sorry, you did not tell me beforehand that you only accepted cards, you have to accept cash as legal tender?
The quick answer is I would have expected that to happen. It's very, very difficult to find any detail around this at all, Jamie. It's really a problem because it hasn't been considered as being an issue. So it's actually not written down somewhere that says in the event that somebody refuses to take cash and it's the only element of payment that you have, A should follow or B should follow. But common sense and common decency would suggest, because if you try to reverse it, if you say to anybody today, by the way, the only way we're accepting payment is cash, there would be World War III, 4 and 5 following it. So, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't state one or the other.
Yeah.
So both should be acceptable.
So are you saying are you saying the law is silent on this?
It is silent on it. It's the only area where it is clear is in specific areas. For example, they will tell you that you cannot get on a bus with coin or cash. You cannot get a bus with notes. They won't accept them.
Yeah.
But they will accept coin. And so there are specifics around it, but nowhere does it say you cannot and will not be able to pay in cash.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it's something we need to tease out a little bit more, isn't it?
Yes, and I need to get in touch with the central bank, to be honest with you, and that's the easiest thing in the world at the minute.
Ask them for a few bob for us, will you, while you're out in there? Yeah, do. Listen, Dermot, it's good to talk to you again, and you might give us a shout tomorrow if you do get talking to them, and because I'd say
happy to do so.
You have more chance of talking to them than I have now.
I wouldn't count on that. We'll see what happens.
Dermot, great to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Take care, my friend. Nice.
Take it easy. Bye. Mind yourself. Dermot Jewell there of the Consumer Association of Ireland. The law is silent, and sometimes when the law is silent, then people will make up their own laws on it. Now, let us know what you think. 083 3333 975. In a second, I'm going to be talking to Benedite Mambu. She's a 6-year student of the Abbey Community College. She came second in the 4th and 6th year category of this wonderful poetry competition that was run by the Waterford Teacher Centre with her poem Corona. Here's a little bit of her stating about herself and the introduction to the poem.
Hi, my name is Benedite and I'm 17 years old. I am a student in Abbey Community College in Ferrybank, and I won 2nd place in the 4th to 6th year category for my poem titled Corona. So without further ado, I hope you guys will enjoy my poem, Corona. On her head, she wears a corona, capturing all of our attention, twirling about, strumming coffins, wearing souls loosely around her neck. Empathy isn't her forte, nor would she care for it to be. Her words, not mine. She's just been crowned Miss Universe. She claims to be a native from Wuhan. Other sources think otherwise. She's as swift as the wind. She need not say much to make her presence known. There's a look about her. It's something in her eyes to spell out life. It seems so dim. She waits, expectantly almost, ready to embrace us with open arms. She sits proudly, boldly, unapologetically, upon her throne of Cashel, Andrex, Soft, and Nikki, downing her miseries in Purell and Sitek. And we're all slaves to fear, her currency of control. While nations lock innocent citizens into their cells, she is free to roam the streets and dance upon the clouds. So as I write this poem in mine own, I'll sum her up in these concluding lines. She's as gripping as the sand, and as timeless as the wind.
As timeless as the wind. Benedite, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
I'm great. Is it a bit strange listening to yourself on the radio there?
Yeah, I can't lie. It's a bit odd.
Listening to your own voice. You said the poem very well, and it's a beautiful poem, very, very well written. How long did it take you to write, to compose?
Like 2 days, because I wrote like half of it in one day and half of it like a week later.
And do you like poetry?
Yeah, I do like poetry quite a lot, because I feel like it gives me the chance to kind of explain what I'm saying, like explain my thoughts, I mean.
Yeah, and some people find it a lot more therapeutic and a lot easier to do than writing maybe a short story or an essay, whereas others are different like that. They can't. But and songwriting comes into it because a lot of songs are effectively poems in some ways.
Yeah.
And in terms of English and in terms of doing creative arts like that at school, do you like that?
Yeah, like that's how I got into it. So yeah.
Tell us, how much are you missing school? It's all over now, but did you miss it much in the last 3 months?
Yeah, because like I'm in 6th year, and so like this is my last year, and it was quite like shocking how quick it ended and everything. So yeah.
And not being able to celebrate the end of your education in primary and secondary school with all your friends, that's been so disconcerting, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Like, we just had to have our graduation, like, online, so... But, yeah.
Are you confident the teachers are going to give you top marks?
Like, I trust them enough. Like, I've worked hard during the year, so I'm just hoping that my hard work has paid off.
Well, hopefully it has. What would you like to do? What are you hoping to do?
I'm hoping to do pediatric nursing in Cork because like I really like children and stuff. So yeah,
lovely.
Hopefully.
And do you want to say hello? Any members of family there? Anybody you want to say hello to?
Yeah, I'll just say hello to my parents, I guess, because they're listening to it in the next room, and hello to my siblings as well, and
lovely.
to like the students who are at my school as well.
And what's Mammy and Daddy's names?
My mom's name is Madeline and my dad's name is Edward.
Lovely. Well, special hello to them. Benedict, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much and congratulations on your prize and the very best of luck with your leaving cert.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking to you. Thanks again. Mind yourself, okay?
Yeah.
See you later. Bye-bye. Benedict Mambu there, 6-year student from Abbey Community College, came second in the 4th to 6th year category, the wonderful Waterford Teachers Centre Poetry Competition. Now, thanks everybody for all your texts and comments. If I haven't got to them today, we'll try, and Andy will put out a few later on. And also, happy 13th birthday to Cassie O'Sullivan from Mam, Dad, Jamie, Jessica. Have a great day. Thanks everybody for all your comments. Thanks for all your texts. Keep them coming in. We'll have a lot more tomorrow. Stay here for Andy.